Thank you for Patreon now for donating to the Patreon.
Hey guys, it's Vandy Aslo back at another Card Fight Vanguard deck profile. So you guys enjoy, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and donate to Patreon. Let's get more started. Today we have Stoicheia, Zorga, Black Magic. Alchemy Magic. What's Black Magic? I don't know what Black Magic is. Ignore that. That was actually a mess up in my script. I didn't mean to say that. But to all of you who know what that is, good for you. And it's definitely not what you think it is, unless you are very into my friend group. But we'll just ignore it and continue on with the bit. Zorga, Grand Blue reincarnated that spams orders, and yeah, goddammit, I can't recover from this. So let's go ahead and get it started. Hopefully we'll forget my stupidity of something I shouldn't have said. First up, our starter today is Dream Nibbling. Grade 0, boost, 5k shield, 6k base. All the is read upon if you went second, draw a card. Standard starter, nothing too special about it. He's just a big, chunky ghosty that isn't a ghosty, which is very disappointing, especially for my friend Mondo, who loves ghosties, with this weird-ass tang thing. This, I don't know what that is, just coming out of its mouth. I hate this start. I love this. I hate this. I don't know what the fuck this is, but I really hope... That's not a tongue. That's a demon right there. It's a fine starter. There's no need for it. I prefer just because it is a Zorga card, but fuck that. On to our triggers. One copy of the Overtrigger Source Dragon Deity of Blessing's Blessfavor. Grade 0, boost, 50 shield, 5k base. Overtrigger, you may only have one Overtrigger in your deck. Remember, as a trigger, move that card, draw a card, choose one of your units, it gets plus 1 million for the turn. And if revealed during your draft check, activates additional effect, which is draw a card, choose one of your units, it gets plus 1 crit for the turn. All your front row gets plus 10. And if your damage zone has the same number of cards in your opponent's or more, choose a card from your damage zone and heal it. If you can't tell, this is an everything bagel. You guaranteed to get a draw in a million whenever this was revealed during either player's turn, regardless if it's a damage check or draft check. But then, if it was during your turn during your draft check, you get another draw, so you get 2 draws a million. You get a critical trigger, you get a front trigger, and you get a heal trigger possibly. This card is bullshit. Normally I would argue that Obari is better, but yeah, one card now makes me want to say Obari is better, but that's one card compared to, like, everything else in the deck. I think Blessfavor takes the cake here. I do genuinely think Blessfavor is better than Obari in every way, shape, and form. If you want to run Obari because it's cheap and it's easy to get, go for it. I'm not going to say anything, but I do think Blessfavor is better. I'm not even going to argue Obari on this one. And then our normal triggers, we run 3 draw triggers in Serene, Maiden, Lena. I cannot tell you how much running a draw trigger has saved me in this deck. If you are the type of person that likes to mill out your deck quickly so you don't run draws, run draws. This thing literally has saved me on countless occasions. This specific card. Anyways, draw trigger continues guard circle. If your opponent's Vanguards are grade 3 or greater, it gets plus 5k shield. It's a 10k drop when your opponent's at grade 3, so that's pretty nice that it can help when you're going second and they're trying to rush you early, or it can help in the late game where it really does, where I need 10k shield, and thankfully this is a 10k shield. I talked a lot of shit about this one in particular, and I'm really glad it hasn't come back to bite me in the ass yet. Unlike its critical... Well, okay, we'll get to its sister in a second. First up, we have our front trigger and Frenzied Heiress. There was no reason not to run this. Grade 0 boost, 15, well, unless you can't afford it. 15k shield, 4k base, front trigger, guards, continues guard circle. If your opponent's Vanguard's grade 3 or greater, it gets plus 5k shield. They just stole this thing's skill from this. They stole this thing's skill and put it onto this. But yeah, front trigger's really nice. You get plus 10 to your front row. This deck can hit technically 2 Persona Rides in one turn. We can call it 2 Persona Rides when technically it isn't. But yeah, the front trigger helps add power to said 2 Persona Rides, and this deck can hit extra criticals very easily, so adding power to the said extra critical is really nice. So 4 Frenzied Heiress, and then the sister of Lena, who has let me down on countless occasions, Aspiring Maiden Alana. Don't smile at me, you know what you did. Grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 4k base, critical trigger auto rear at the end of the battle that it boosted, put it to soul, choose one of your units, it gets plus 2 for the turn. Okay, I don't use it for the 2, obviously, but I use it for the soul because this deck did have a soul problem. And, like, before I kept this deck the same as set 3, but then I really wanted to change to set 4, so I quickly did a match right before I did this deck profile. Yeah, this, with a new deck, or with this deck now, yeah, Elaine still didn't do anything, but the deck has less of a soul problem, but it still has a semi-soul problem, so Alana's really good. If only she would show up when I want her to, instead of getting milled out by cards that don't need to mill her. But, 4 copies of her, because you want crits for the, all the big numbers that you're making, but you also want soul cards, so 4 of. And then our hero trigger is 4 copies of Elegy Pixy, who I swear every time I look at this, I genuinely do think it's a dragon. Like, I never see this as a human, I see this as a dragon. Grade 1's time is first up 4 copies of Rogue Headhunter. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base, continues rear. If you played an order this turn, it gets plus 5, so 13k. Cool, and it can be during both players' turns, because it just says if you played an order this turn, so it can be a blitz order as well. And auto rear when placed on rear from anywhere. The next time you would play an Alchemagic as an order that turn, reduce the cost by Counterblast 1. So reduce it from the total cost, does not countercharge even if it becomes negative. So that's really nice, as it can make a lot of your counterblasting orders, which I think there's only 2, there's either 2 or 3 in this deck, but it can make the counterblasting orders not counterblast, which is really nice. And it also allows you to have a 13k base, and it allows for a very certain grade 1 rush play, which I will go over later because it's really fun pulling that off. So 4 copies of Rogue Headhunter. It's really nice in this deck, and there's no reason not to run it out for. Frankly, one of the best support cards I think came out for Alchemagic. 4 copies of our only other grade 1 that actually goes in the main deck, Planar Prevent Dragon. Grade 1 boost, 0 shield, 6k base, continue Sentinel, you have 4 Sentinels on your deck, and auto once put into guard circle. Choose one of your units, and it cannot be a ton to battle, and if you have hand as 2 or more cards, choose a card from hand, discard it. Standard PG, nothing too special about it. If you don't know what that means, it means if this and only one other card is in your hand when you would put this onto guard circle, you do not have to discard for it, which is really nice, as in, like, you can go really aggressive with your deck, and then not face the repercussions of those decisions later when you inevitably have 0 hand cards, or this is your only hand card, which means for once you can use your PGs after that point. So 4 cards to Planar Prevent, because it can actually save you from your own stupidity, and or can save you from doing an overrush on the opponent that's not needed. And then our last grade 1 is 1 copy in the ride deck, no copies in the main deck, of Rancor Chain. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base, act Vanguard once per turn, Soul Blast 1, draw 2, and then choose up to 1 order from your hand, discard it. And if you did not discard an order, you choose 2 cards from your hand and discard them. So it's a way to fill up your drop zone quickly, but at the same time, you don't really want to discard 2. I do think discarding the order is better because you can fetch it back now. Like, if you discard an order for your ride deck ride, maybe that's when you want to discard 2 if you only have 1 order in your hand now. But I don't think discarding an order is ideal for that scenario. But I do suggest trying to get an order in hand so you don't have to nuke 2 hand cards, because that can sometimes come back to bite you in the ass. And continues rearguard. If you played an order this turn, it gets plus 2. So 10k base. Pretty good, it's really easy to hit that. It's also a part of a early grade 2 rush combo along with Rogue Headhunter. I mean, you can do either of them. Preferably you use Rogue Headhunter for it, but if you have to use Rancor Chain, it's not the end of the world. It's the more accessible one out of the 2 at this time of the game. So, Rancor Chain's still good. It has one of my favorite ride line abilities just because I like the draw ability, and it can also act as a 10k booster, which is really nice. Great, and also you don't have to worry about keeping this at 1, because you can also just fetch it out of the drop zone once you soul blast it. Now onto grade 2s. 3 copies of Inheritance, Maiden, Hendrina. Grade 2, Intercept, 5k shield, 10k base. Literally the best grade 2 in this deck, and I don't run it at 4 for a very certain reason. Auto, when it's placed on the rear guard circle, you may discard 3 from the top of your deck. It is a may, but if you choose to do it, you mill 3. And as in the words of the greatest, in my opinion, the greatest Grand Blue player alive, you are not a true Grand Blue player unless you are willing to mill out your entire deck in 1 turn to prove a point. And because this is Grand Blue Incarnate, that rule goes here, which means if you play this deck like he does, every time you play Hendrina, you must mill 3. Whether you think that's a good idea or not, it's not up to you. If you play it the way he does, you gotta do it. It works, surprisingly. Kind of scarily, actually. It's very scary that it works like that. Anyways, after rearguard, retire this unit, and until end of turn, the next time you would Alchemagic an order and play it, you may choose not to pay all of that cost Soul Blast. So, you don't have to pay Soul, which is really nice, especially in a deck that a lot of their orders do cost Soul Blast. But in this deck, now that I've kind of gotten rid of the orders that cost Soul, or most of them, it's not really that much of a problem. I do think Hendrina is still here for that skill, especially because once you get into a drop, you can call her out. Except that mill 3, I swear to you, in every build, that has been the main thing that has happened. Because after a certain game, it was only 1 game, but I didn't see a Hendrina for an entire game because for some reason all 4 of them were at the bottom of the deck. I don't know how they ended up that way, but they did. I could do nothing with it. Hendrina's normally my thing that gets orders into drop zone, normally my thing that sets up my drop zone for my orders later. I could do nothing because I didn't have any cards in drop zone to use. I didn't have any orders in drop. I had 2 orders in hand, but they were useless on their own without being Alchemagic. And I didn't have Cursed Souls, Wriggle, and Agony. Hendrina is that mill skill. I think a lot of people underestimate it, but that mill skill, genuinely, at least for me, it has been my saving grace on many occasions. And that one game that I didn't have it, I realized how important that skill is. So 3 of... And every time I use it, I will use it. Every time I call her, I will use that skill because it has saved me on many occasions. 3 of Hendrina. 3 copies of our only other grade 2 in this main deck. Shadowcloak. Grade 2, intercept 5k shield, 10k base. Auto when it's placed on rear guard from hand. Search your deck to 1 order card, reveal it, and put it into your drop zone if you do not have a card with the same card name as that card. And then you shuffle your deck. So, you place it and say, for example, you do not have a Cursed Soul, Wriggles, and Agony in your drop zone. You can search your deck for a Cursed Souls, Wriggle, and Agony, and then place it into your drop zone. Boom, now you have an order and drop for Alchemagic far later, which is really nice. So it's a nice setup, grade 2. Unfortunately, it has to be placed from hand, so you can't loop it with Zorga. And auto rear, when you would play an order, Soul Blast 1, and this unit gets +5 for the turn. And if it's during Alchemagic, choose one of your other rear guards, you may bounce it to hand. So, it's a really good play that you can just, say, for example, you already had a Hendrina in your hand, you just called it and killed it. Milled 3, then killed it for Alchemagic for free. What you could do is you could use Zorga, fetch something like a PG or a trigger from drop, then use your Alchemagic, use Shadowcloak at the end of it, Soul Blast 1, bounce that PG to hand, and it gets +5. So, you have an extra garter later. So Shadowcloak's really nice. It can get you back hand cards, it can get you back nullifies, it can get you back defensive abilities. So it's all around a really good grade 2 that can lead for combos. So 3 of. Downside is somehow this is my main Soul Blaster. And the reason why I have a soul problem. Then our next grade 2 is our last grade 2 and the one that goes in the ride deck. No copies in the main deck of Black Tears Husk Dragon. Grade 2, intercept 5k shield, 10k base. Auto when it's placed on Vanguard Circle, choose up to 1 normal order from your drop zone, bounce it to hand, and continues rear. If you played an order, this turn gets +5. So, it's not that hard to get this on rear because you just have to Soul Blast it out and then call it back via Zorga or any of your orders. So, really easy to get that 15. But also, unfortunately, the on Van ability requires you to pick a normal order, unlike Rancor, who just allows you to discard any order. But it's still pretty good. Just discard an order for your ride line or discard an order for this thing skill, and you bounce it back to hand next turn for free. All around, Husk is a really nice grade 2, and I like it for that, so I give it a 1 of in the ride deck. No copies in the main deck because you can just fetch it out once it gets into drop. And then on to our grade 3s. 3 copies of Roaming Prison Dragon. Grade 3, Twin Dread Persona Right, 5k base actually, not 13k base, my bad. And auto drop zone, when you would play a normal order from anywhere, you may call this card to rear guard. And if you called this card, perform one of the following. If it was via Alchemagic, then perform all the following instead. So if you played an order without Alchemagic, it either gets +10 or a crit. Or if you played it during Alchemagic, it gets +10 and a crit. So 15k double critical. Now, you may think, is 5k really the way to nerf it? Would that do much, even if it was like a 13k? Because there is such a thing as a PG. And yeah, I do agree, because I also talked a bit of shit about it when it was first revealed. Yeah, after playing it and after seeing it be played, I'm telling you right now, this dragon is broken. Here, I'm gonna go ahead and go over the grade 2 thing. So and then I'll explain its skill. So, you do Rancor Chain, you discard any order, and you try to get this in a drop zone early. And then you ride Husk, you get an order back. What you do is, since this is in drop, you play something like Spiritual Body Condensation. You Soul Blast Rancor Chain, call it out, it gets +5, and then its own skill gives it +2. Then skill of Roaming Dragon, because it's in your drop zone, call it in front of that Rancor Chain and give it an extra critical. So now you have a column of 15 plus a 5 double critical. So 20k double crit to an 8k base, and most likely your opponent will guard it. They will take it because, they want Counterblast for that turn, especially because it's maybe easier to guard than the Vanguard. But especially because you might just not give them the Counterblast with your Vanguard. But also, if they choose to guard it, they're guarding early. And you can Alchemagic with this and make this a 15k double critical, which doesn't sound like a lot. But then when all your grade 1 boosters will most likely be at least 10k boosters, followed by all your orders have a way of giving this thing power, yeah, Roaming Dragon hits for a lot, and it's very dangerous in a grade 2 rush. Genuinely, this thing being a 5k is very eluding. Not very eluding. It gives you the illusion that it's not really that good. I do admit I also fell for that trick of it not being that good. No, it's genuinely a really good grade 3. It works really good in the early game where they don't have enough hand cards to block it. Gets either high power or high crit in the early game. And then once you start Alchemagicking, it becomes a very dangerous threat to your opponent, and they will need to kill it immediately. The best part is, because it can just call itself for free from drop, if they kill it, it's just going to come right back. So the only real way to stop this is to play Prison and imprison it before it can come back. So yeah, 3 copies of Roaming Prison Dragon, because it's really good and very terrifying to stare down. Ask anyone who's ever played against Zorga in set 4. 3 copies, by the way. And then on to our last normal unit, or unit in general. We have our main grade 3, 1 copy in the riot deck, 1 copy in the main deck. A lot of you are probably going to question me for that later. Mysterious Range Spiritualist Zorga. Grade 3, 200 Persona Right, 13k base, continuous Vanguard. When you would play a normal order, you may bind a normal order from your drop zone with a different card name than the card that you were using for your order in Alchemagic. You combine the cost and you add the effect on the back. So basically how that works is you pay the cost of the combined cards first, then you do the order's effects. First the order you played from hand, then the order you bound from drop. There's a reason why I'm bringing this up, and I will continue that statement later when I get onto the order combo. Act Vanguard, once per turn, counterblast 1, choose a card from drop zone, call it to rear. Very simple skill. Here's what you do with it. You call Hendrina, mill 3. Hopefully one of them is either an order or a roaming dragon. You kill her, now you got free soul blast for your Alchemagic. It is that simple. Zorga all around is a really balanced grade 3. He can get you that Alchemagic, which is really good for this boy. He can net you a call from drop, which is really good for the sake of Hendrina or like any other of your toolbox, especially you can just PG from a Shadowcloak here. And the reason why I don't have more of the Persona right is because I didn't want more order consistency. Like, I wanted more orders. I don't regret that decision. My deck has been a lot more consistent since I took out 2 copies of Zorga for it, especially because I already had like a Persona Ride-ish order, so I didn't really need another copy of it. I have seen less Zorgas, obviously, but yeah, 1 copy of Zorga in the main deck is not really that bad, especially because you can just call it back to the board if it gets into drop and then just Shadowcloak it back to hand. So, it's not actually, no, yeah, that's the thing with it. As long as you have 1 copy, Shadowcloak can just bounce it back to hand and keep looping as long as you keep soul blasting it. If that's a good idea, I'm not so sure, but that's my thing with Zorga. I do think it's a fine grade 3 on its own, and I give it a 1 copy in the main deck because you can just mill it out and then just continue to Persona Ride it from drop via this thing. And 1 copy in the riot deck because you do need a card in the riot deck. There is a substitute Zorga, but it's definitely not as good in this deck, so that's my choice here. And then we go on to orders. 2 copies of the grade 1 norm. All of them are normal orders. I run no blitz orders, even though really cool bird looking one, just because I didn't want to run a blitz order because I already have too many orders and I really need normal orders for Alchemagic to go off as much as I really wanted a blitz order Alchemagic. Spiritual Body Condensation, grade 1 normal order, Soul Blast 1 to play it. Choose a card with a grade less than or equal to than your Vanguard from your drop. Call it to rear guard and it gets +5. So if your Vanguard's a grade 2, call grade 1 or call grade 2. If your Vanguard's a grade 3, call anything that isn't a grade 4, etc. So Spiritual Body Condensation. Yeah, part of the combo where you are on this thing, you Soul Blast Rancor Chain to call Rancor Chain, gets +7, 2 from its skill, 5 from Spiritual Body Condensation, and then hopefully Roaming Dragon wasn't drop and you call it in front of Rancor Chain over here and it gets an extra critical. That easy. That's why it's here. 2 copies. Really easy, and you can also pull it off in the later game and it will still be useful because once an order gets into drop zone, you can just Alchemagic it out with Zorga the next turn. So 2 copies of Tearful Malice. Grade 2 normal order as well. Play it by retiring. I'm not going to say normal order. All of them are normal orders. Play it by retiring 2 rear guards. Draw a card and put it to soul countercharge 1. So if you're wondering how any order with cost would interact, it would go pay this. So say this was the one you're using from hand. Say this one you're using from drop. You would play Spiritual Body Condensation, Alchemagic with Tearful Malice. You pay the Soul Blast if you can, unless you use Hendrina. And then you use the Tearful Malice cost where you retire 2 rear guards, and then you use Spiritual Body Condensation skill. You'll most likely call one of the killed rear guards to the column. I like to kill the Rancor Chain and Roaming Dragon from earlier. Then I use Spiritual Body Condensation to bring back the Rancor Chain or a Rogue Headhunter, and if it ended up in drop, give it +5 plus their own plus skill, and then Tearful Malice will draw you a card, shove it to soul and countercharge 1, which is really good because it allows you to get the order back that you drew, that you lost, more or less. Allows you to get a soul, which can be a problem in this deck, and countercharge, which is also a problem if you let it be. So all around, Tearful Malice is a really good card. And then since you've opened up that last circle for you, Roaming Dragon. That's why Tearful Malice is here. By the way, if you're wondering what I cut the 2 Zorgas for, it was for Tearful Malice. Yeah, I don't regret the decision. 2 copies of this. It's really good as a grade 2 normal order. 2 copies of Nectar of Sensationalism. Choose a grade 2 order as well. Choose one of your rear guards until end of turn. It gets +5 for every 5 cards in your drop. And if your drop is 15 or more cards, it gets an extra critical. Yeah, this is where Hendrina comes in. Mill every order you can. Mill all the things you need to get into drop. Because once you play this, Alchemagic it with something. Even if you don't, I typically have like +15 guaranteed by my first use. And then that extra critical comes along with it because you had 15. So, yeah, Sensationalism. Really good. Get your power, get your crit. You could just put it all in one column of Roaming Dragon and guarantee a PG come down. Or you can just, if they're 4 damage, put it on the column that isn't Roaming Dragon. And now you have 2 rear guards with extra criticals in big numbers. Your opponent definitely is going to have a fun time guarding those without PGs, aren't they? I can guarantee if they have 2 PGs, they're going down that turn. So 2 copies of Nectar of Sensationalism. I run them all at 2 because, you know, easy to search, easy number to see them at, but also you want to use them more than twice each. So 2 of. 2 copies of Grief, Despair, and Rejection, my favorite name. Play it by counterblasting 1 if your Vanguard is a Mysterious Rain Spiritual Zorga. The other reason you cannot use it in the backup Zorga, you have to use it in the real Zorga. Choose 3 of your units and they get +10 for the turn. Oh, screw you, card. I thought it was 3 units in the front row. Okay, if you don't know why I'm saying this, it's because like every time I use this, I would always move a unit to the front row to use it because I thought it said front row. I didn't know that it could be any, and the reason why I'm complaining about this is because it would save me a grand total of like 35 seconds of recording a video because I would move a Rancor Chain or a booster to the front row, use Rejection, get +10 to the front row, then I would use Roaming Dragon, call it, give it its boost, and then swap them, and then I have to swap the boost as well. That would save me 35 seconds if I knew it actually just gave it to 3 units and not 3 units in the front row. Oh, I hate this card. I mean, either way, that's still really good. It allows you to be versatile. It basically allows you to give a Persona right to your back row if you really want to. But, yeah, all around, it's really good. I really wish I knew that before. It would have saved me 35 seconds on 2 recordings. But, you know, Grief, Despair, Rejection, really good. You combine it with a Persona right that's +20 to your front row. 2 of. And then 2 copies of Death Inviting Black Magic. Grade 3 order as well. This cost is reduced by counterblast 1 for each card in your bind zone. Reduce the total cost if you Alchemagic. So play this with counterblast of 4, draw 2. So you know, if you play it by itself without Alchemagicking, and you have no cards in bind zone, you are counterblasting 4 to draw 2, which is not a good trade. But even when you Alchemagic, even if it's 1 card in bind zone at the time, you are at least getting that guaranteed -1. So you can combine it with Tearful Malice, because Tearful Malice will go to the bind zone before it goes to soul, since you're using this from hand, presumably. So you have at least only a counterblast of 3 to draw 2, then skill of Tearful Malice goes to soul, draws another 1, and countercharges 1. So basically, you counterblasted 2 to draw 3, which is basically Graceful Charity. So, yeah. Death Inviting Black Magic. Really nice order that can help you get out of some sticky situations, especially when you combine it with Tearful Malice to open up a board for Roaming Dragon again, because who doesn't want Roaming Dragon to get into drop zone and get power? Your opponent may not, but you certainly do. 2 copies of Black Magic because of hand cards. And then 2 copies of our final order, which is Regurgitation from the Underworld. Nice art, interesting name. Play it by counterblasting 1 and soul blasting 1, so you need a rogue Headhunter and a Hendrina to prevent this from going off for cost. Choose one of your any player's rear guards, retire it, and choose up to 1 card from your drop zone with the same grade as the card, and call it to rear guard. And if you Alchemagic, then you may call it 2 instead of 1. Downside to this is this involves you picking the card of the same grade, which means if you kill grade 3, you don't get to get a grade 3 or less. You have to pick a grade 2 grade 3s or 1 grade 3 from your drop zone. But it's a fine order, you know. It's easy to pull off. Very simple. There is another order where you could have, I think it's called Let the Screams of the Cursed Souls something. It's basically the same thing, except you only get 1 unit guaranteed, but it's for free. So yeah, I think that would work better, but I do still like this over it because it can net you 2 units, and in the occasion that I have 2 grade 1s in drop and they have 1 grade 1 on board and I don't have much of a board, this can make me a board very quickly. So 2 copies of Regurgitation from the Underworld, as it can make us a small board very quickly and can fuck with the opponent a bit. Also, you can just kill your own unit. It doesn't say it has to be your opponent's rear guard, so you can kill a grade 1 on your board just to get Z grade 1 back and another copy of that grade 1, like Rogue Headhunter, so that's a bonus out of it. So 2 copies of Regurgitation from the Underworld adds for a slight combo. And that's it for the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you're wondering how many orders I run 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. And somehow I don't get order locked in this deck, even though before I ran 10 orders and I got order locked very often. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. This deck is very fun. You get to do a lot of fucking around with orders. It's very versatile. There are a lot of orders that do a lot of different things. You get a board. Roaming Dragon is literally a constant PG block and something that has to be constantly worried of. There is a lot of ways to get power in the deck, a lot of ways to get critical in this deck, and it's very fun using. So if you guys enjoyed, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, donate to the Patreon, join Discord, follow Twitch, and I'll see you all next one. Don't forget to stand up your vanguards.